In the last decade or so, science has discovered a tremendous amount about the role emotions play in our lives. Researchers have found that even more than IQ, your emotional awareness and abilities to handle feelings will determine your success and happiness in all walks of life, including family relationships. That is from John Gottman. He was a researcher and a clinical psychologist. He spent 4 decades of research on divorce and family relationships. Emotional intelligence, more than any other factor, more than IQ or expertise, accounts for 85% to 90% of success at work. IQ is a threshold competence. You need it, but it doesn't make you a star. Emotional intelligence can. This one is from Warren Bennis. He was an industrial coach for leadership. Another coach and the famous author of the best-selling book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey, said that research shows convincingly that EQ is more important than IQ in almost every role, and many times more important in leadership roles. And of course, this is from Daniel Goleman, who got started on emotional intelligence by following up on Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, particularly the inter and intrapersonal intelligences. What really matters for success, he said, character, happiness, and lifelong achievements is a definite set of emotional skills, your EQ, not just purely cognitive abilities that are measured by conventional IQ tests. He also said that our ability to manage ourselves and handle relationships matter twice as much as IQ, and that IQ can help one be successful up to 20% only in life. The rest of the 80% depends on your EQ. Another one here is from David Caruso. He is a psychologist and researcher at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. He said that it is very important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It is not the triumph of heart over head. It is the unique intersection of both. Maybe back in the 1990s, I heard an adult like 20 years older than I was said, ganun talaga pag matalino ka, di ka naman magaling sa mga heart matters. Conversely, pag okay naman ang love life mo, di ka naman daw magsasucceed sa career mo. So, but as academics, teaching, and counseling professionals, I am sure we can all disagree to that. I say that it is possible to be successful in both career and heart matters. Holistic development essentially means the development of intellectual, mental, physical, emotional, and social abilities in a child so that he or she is capable of facing the demands and challenges of everyday life. These abilities are vitally important for success in professional fields of work. The key elements of holistic development are language, cognitive, social, emotional, and the physical aspects. You know very well that every child is unique. He or she has her unique personality traits, interests, preferences, values, attitudes, strengths, and weaknesses. The educational curriculum must be able to help every child find his or her unique place in the world in alignment with the uniqueness that he or she has. And in order to achieve this, the holistic development of a child is of utmost importance. Our digital learners characteristically are on the go. They are more diverse than ever before. They are actively using technology to learn on multiple devices, and they appreciate high value, engaging, interactive, on demand course materials and support anytime and anywhere. So I do not want to preempt or take over the talk of our other speaker, and I simply do not have an exhaustive knowledge on digital learners, but it is important that we get to the core of them when talking about emotional intelligence. Digital learners seem to be always connected and seeking information from many sources. They are highly visual, preferring to process pictures, sounds, and video rather than text. They are experiential and social learners. They like to interact with the content and other learners to explore and discuss information and draw their own conclusions. And we can expect this trend to continue. And it will be further fueled with the increase in technology such as virtual realities and the highly anticipated HoloLens, which will really allow learners to fully immerse themselves in the learning experience. Additionally, our digital learners can also be characterized as needing immediate feedback, um, responsiveness, and ideas from others, as they are used to instant gratification and feedback. They are also independent learners who are able to teach themselves with guidance through YouTube and VR, probably in the future. They don't need sets of instructions as they expect learning technology to be intuitive. They prefer to construct their own learning. They are comfortable entering into learning from any point in the process and often construct learning journeys that go back and forth in through the complexity of information. So let me just give you this table on the next slide. Okay. Uh, one more time. Okay, there you go. Characteristically, our digital learners are easily distracted. Okay. So we can create engaging activities so that they will be able to hold their attention all throughout the lesson. We can also ask compelling questions so that they can reflect upon the topic. We can tell an emotional story so that their fascination will be sparked, will be ignited. The list of their characteristics can go on and on to include social learning, they crave constant knowledge, and our the things that we can do for them can also be expanded. Okay, we can think of so many things that we can do so that we can continue to engage these digital learners. But our goal is to make them whole, so we need to get to the bottom of things. You will see that in all these things, in all the other things that they will encounter, they need to learn skills for self management, social awareness, self awareness. All the skills that will make them emotionally intelligent to handle all the other things that may come their way in the future. So, in this webinar, I wish to discuss further emotional intelligence and the journey to it through social and emotional learning. I will also be discussing briefly how we can use social emotional learning in our schools and very briefly, too, the importance of school climate. It is important that we put weight on these things, the hard skills. Hard skills refer to a person's knowledge and occupational skills, and they include math skills, writing skills, presentation skills, computer skills, and analytical skills. So basically, the abilities that let you tackle job specific duties and responsibilities. While these are important, we take the wisdom of those who have been in the field and consider the soft skills as well. Soft skills are the character traits and interpersonal skills that characterize a person's relationships with other people in the workplace, in the school, and at home. Soft skills are considered to be a complement to hard skills. Soft skills are part of what we call emotional intelligence. When it comes to happiness and success in life, EQ matters just as much as IQ. Salovey and Mayer defined emotional intelligence as the subset of social intelligence that involves the ability to monitor one's own and others' feelings and emotions, to discriminate among them, and to use this information to guide one's thinking and actions. As we know, it's not the smartest people who are the most successful or the most fulfilled in life. You probably know people who are academically brilliant, so smart, and yet are socially inept and unsuccessful at work or in their personal relationships. As a matter of fact, well, just like what I said earlier, I have heard adults like a generation older than me during the 1990s say, ay, ganyan talaga ang matatalino. Mga nagsasuffer ang love life. Ganun talaga, pag successful ka sa studies, di ka successful sa relationship. May magsasuffer at magsasuffer talaga. Or even to the point, some individuals bring God into the talk. Sasabihin nila, marunong talaga ang Diyos. You cannot have everything. Those only go to say that intellectual ability or your intelligence quotient isn't enough on its own to achieve success in life. Yes, your IQ can help you get into college, but it's your EQ that will help you manage the stress and emotions when facing your exams or when facing peers or your professors. IQ and EQ exist in tandem and are most effective when they are intended or they are made to build off on one another. Emotional intelligence affects your performance at school or work because high emotional intelligence can help you navigate the social and relational complexities of the workplace or school life. So it can lead and motivate others and it can help one excel in their career. In fact, when it comes to gauging important job candidates, many companies rate emotional intelligence as important as technical ability and they employ EQ testing before hiring. Also, emotional intelligence affects your physical health. So if you're unable to manage your emotions, you are probably not managing your stress either. This can lead to serious health problems. Uncontrolled stress raises blood pressure, suppresses the immune system, and increases the risk of heart attacks and strokes. So maraming sakit ang pwede kang makuha if you are not managing your emotions well. So it can also contribute to infertility and speeds up the aging process. So of course, you would not want wrinkles on your face, diba? Not prematurely. So the first step to improving emotional intelligence is to learn how to manage stress. So, your mental health is also something that can be taken care of by your emotional intelligence. So, uncontrolled emotions and stress can also impact your mental health, making you vulnerable to anxiety and depression. If you are unable to understand, get comfortable with, or manage your emotions, you will also struggle to form strong relationships. This in turn can leave you feeling lonely and isolated and further exacerbate any mental health problems. So, emotional intelligence also affects your relationships. So, by understanding your emotions and how to control them, you're better able to express how you feel and understand how others are feeling. This allows you to communicate more effectively and forge stronger relationships both at work and at home or your personal life. So, also, emotional intelligence affects your social intelligence. So, being in tune with your emotions serves a social purpose, connecting you to other people and the world around you. Social intelligence enables you to recognize friends from foes, okay? It measures another person's interest in you, reduces stress, balance your nervous system through social communication, and make you feel loved and happy. So overall, emotional intelligence contributes to better psychological health, and people with lower emotional intelligence levels are at higher risk of depression and anxiety disorders. Older adults regulate emotions better and have higher levels of emotional intelligence on the average. But emotional intelligence can also be increased through emotional skills training. So it's not a matter of maturity. You can engage yourselves in emotional skills training so that you can increase your emotional intelligence. So we need our students, we need ourselves to have these skills for these many aspects. And the process to learn these skills is through social and emotional. So this goes to say that the younger we teach social emotional learning, the better. So let me put that again. This goes to say that the younger we teach social emotional learning skills, the better. And the skills that we learn or fail to learn as a child are the same ones that we practice or not practice in adult life. This has also been proven by many results from the personality psychology tool Imago. The expressions we had as a child, how we whined when not given something desired, stays true until adulthood, given no intervention is provided. So, a child who can resist temptation to eat junk food or play computer games can also resist temptations of other sorts in adulthood. In the same way, a student who has the willpower to finish or continue a difficult task will have the same persistence in adulthood, say when he is applying for work or when he is given a difficult task to accomplish. Social and emotional learning, or SEL, is the process through which children and adults understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain positive relationships, and make responsible decisions. Taking the journey that is SEL can make our students learn the skills that will make them emotionally intelligent. The SEL journey starts from the time we were infants. That's a time when we first noticed emotions and expressed them. Now, more than ever, our students need our guidance. And let me just give you a few more data on this one. In 2016, there has been numerous talks about mental health, and it has been found out that the mental health needs of children have made a significant increase. So there is 1 in 5 children who have mental problems, and there's 43% increase in ADHD. The increase is 6.4 million children, making it the total worldwide 84.7 million, and 37% increase in teen depression nationwide, making raising it to 1.9 million, and 100% increase in suicide rates in kids 10 to 14 years old, and an increase in prevalence of students who have traumatic experiences. So bear in mind that this is in US. So in the Philippines, we have less, of course, but we also have less diagnosis here. So, but if we are to gauge the measures in these numbers, then we should really be paying attention to our mental health concerns. We were already experiencing widening gaps in academic and social behavior needs prior to COVID 19. So, as you can imagine, students may be coming back to our schools online, albeit with greater gaps in social emotional needs than ever before. Students who may not have had gaps prior to COVID 19 may now have gaps. Students will need these social emotional learning skills to access their education. As administrators, faculty, and staff, we cannot deny the importance of social and emotional learning in schools. So during COVID-19, the adverse impact on students include struggling with mental health in many ways. More than half experienced anxiety, 45% felt excessive stress, 43% identified struggling with um, depression, and 61% reported loneliness. So this is as far as students are concerned. I'm sure pagdating sa adults, we did experience also, and we've also heard a lot of adverse impact. So having SEL in school has shown positive outcomes for a student's future. As students graduate towards higher levels of schooling, training and employment, social and emotional skills become increasingly important. Social and emotional competencies can help students in managing stress, deciding on goals, and planning for the future. It also It has also shown positive outcomes for student achievement. According to the Castle framework, quality teaching of SEL promotes student satisfaction, success and academic engagement, outcomes, and achievement. And having SEL in schools has shown positive outcomes for student mental health. The Australian Research Alliance for Children and Youth notes that schools who ensures that SEL is part of their teaching and learning can give students the opportunity to build the resilience to deal with change and unpredictability. This is an essential skill for positive mental health. So that is why at APSA, we came up with a material that can help you on the journey that is social and emotional learning. We have the SEL and School Climate Survey, and the SEL and School Climate Survey has two parts, the social and emotional learning and the school climate part. The one on your left is the social and emotional learning part, and it measures the grit, growth mindset, self management, social awareness, self efficacy. While on your right is the school climate dimensions, and we will be discussing about the school climate dimensions briefly in a short while. We believe that SEL is not a thing to do. It is the way of being all day, every day, in any setting. Now, for SEL and school counseling, incorporating social emotional learning in school counseling sessions is both a natural and important task for every school counselor. Parang counselors breathe SEL in and out no? Nasa kanila na to eh. Social emotional learning or SEL is really nothing new. SEL has been around for as long as humans. Our brains are hardwired to develop from our social interactions. But how it occurs can look very different for each generation. And this leads us into why everyone is talking about SEL these days. Nowadays, instead of families or communities incorporating SEL into everyday life, we spend a lot of time just talking and reading about it. Sobrang daming resources sa internet, okay, and then our researches also. But back in the 1970s or 80s, we didn't talk much about SEL. People just did it. For example, in the 1970s, moms often just told their kids like, okay, dun ka muna sa kwarto mo until you can come down and be nice again. So, yan yung mga sinasabi nila kapag may sumpong yung bata or nagmamarakulyo, yung mga ganyan. So moms today do not do this a whole lot anymore. In the 1970s, 80s, even 90s, no, teachers and counselors also still make use of this one, yung may mga thinking chair, o i-seclude muna natin tong batang to kasi masyado siyang magulo. Okay. Let him think about what he did wrong and then tsaka natin siya i-integrate. So, yan yung mga SEL practices natin dati. Now, today, meron pa rin gumagawa niyan but hindi lahat, hindi na lahat. So nag-iiba lang kung paano natin gawin yung social and emotional learning, but naandun pa rin yung mga skills na dapat matutunan ng bawat isa, yung mga skills na binibigay natin sa ating mga young learners. I remember older adults in our neighborhood na mga some 10 years back. So talagang kasi pag may dumadaan sa kalye, like every morning nagwawalis sila, yung ganyan, kilala naman nila yung mga tao dun sa neighborhood, no? Pag may dumadaan, nagsasmile sila, nag-good morning. Ngayon, kapag may isang tao na alam naman nilang taga doon at hindi nagsasmile sa kanila, sisitahin nila yan. Or pagsasabihin nila yung magulang, okay, sasabihin nila, taga dito ka naman, di ba? Ba't hindi ka man lang nagsasmile? So that's how community works. That's how SEL in communities work some time back. But not anymore. But all these to say, many kids today aren't getting SEL in the traditional way from their families or from their neighborhoods. And we have rising rates of suicidal ideation, anxiety, and depression to prove it. So, what does this mean for us as school counselors or as educators, as mental health professionals? It means that kids need SEL strategies in the form of healthy coping skills now more than ever, and they need to learn these skills in schools because families and communities aren't able to teach it like they used to. Okay. So just like what I have mentioned earlier, apart from SEL, it is important to look at school climate. School climate has these five dimensions: teacher-student connection, sense of belonging, school safety, physical surroundings, cyber and social media safety. These dimensions, or looking at these dimensions, can help the school assess how the environment may or may not be beneficial to the student. Part of Focus 3 is the alignment of the school climate, programs, practices to promote social and emotional learning. We need to ensure that the students feel safe and secure in our classes. So, why school climate? The school climate says that students learn best when they are in environments in which they feel safe, supported, challenged, and accepted. In addition, environments that have strong school climates foster the social, emotional, and academic well being of all students. Research shows that when schools and districts effectively focus on improving school climate, students are more likely to engage in the curriculum, achieve academically, and develop positive relationships. Students are less likely to exhibit problem behaviors, and teacher turnover is lower and teacher satisfaction is higher. There are many small things that we can do to virtually and otherwise that can help us create a positive learning environment. You can start with knowing the names of your students. So try to know each of them by their names. So again, no, kapag hindi mo alam ang pangalan ng bata, it creates a negative effect on them. So when I was in college, meron akong professor na talagang hindi mabigas-bigas yung pangalan ko. So just imagine how the effect that it creates on your students kapag hindi nyo alam yung pangalan nila. And 'di ba pag mga bata, they have their pet names. So be careful lang. Would they like to be called using their pet names or gusto nila iba? Just as a matter of getting to know them lang, no? So, tanungin nyo, do you like your name? Why and why not? Yung mga tipong ganyan. Kasi kadalasan yung mga tawag like yung mga pet name like pot-pot, yung ayaw naman pala nilang tawagin silang ganon. So, you ask them, how do you want me to call you? Yeah. So that's also infusing SEL in your day-to-day interactions with your students. Okay, so that's one name. Okay, you can also give your students a smile. Okay, sabi nga nila there are two types of smile, no? Uh, Careful ano yung binibigay ng smile sa students because they are very perceptive as well. So the first type of smile is when you smile with your lips pursed, nakatikom yung lips mo. Okay? When you give that type of smile, it's a polite smile. Okay? Very polite ang dating mo. Okay, you can try that. Polite. Now, the second type of smile is when you smile with your lips slightly parted. Okay? And that is what you call the sincere smile. So, between polite and sincere, which smile would you like to receive? And which smile would you like to give out to others? Okay? So practice that smile because it doesn't come naturally, just like what I told you earlier, di ba? So give them a smile and find time to ask how they are. Too often, we underestimate the power of a touch, a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, an honest compliment, or the smallest act of caring, all of which have the potential to turn a life around. So just think about how your students are and extend a little something for them. That's social and emotional learning. Educators and counselors, remember that our everyday actions in the classroom have a huge impact on our student lives. Try to get them to talk about the pressures they are feeling. Get them to think beyond the surface. Inspire integrity because we want our future leaders to make honest, brave decisions that push us ever forward. The journey to improve SEL is different per student. Make sure that you respect their uniqueness every time you deal with your students. SEL in school climate is a school wide activity and beyond.